I know that music has the power to change people's lives. I'm living proof of that.
Our guest today is British music industry legend and UK garage pioneer, Jonathan Joseph, better known as DJ Spoony.
I've had too many conversations with too many people about the said subject whose lives would have been completely different, but not for music. You're my ultimate hero, and I've written a few words by way of a letter to you. I speak of you in the present tense because even though
with a career spanning over 3 decades as a DJ, producer, radio presenter, sports pundit, DJ Spoony, just an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us on Heroes Have Heroes. Your quote that you've chosen is hard work beats talent when talent isn't working hard. That's one that we use in sport a lot. What does that mean to you and why did you choose it?
I chose it because I think we're all born with a special power. I think we're all gifted some kind of talent. And I think the people that end up being successful, whatever your measure of success is, are the ones that work at their talent and don't just rely on their talent. And I've seen many talented people, whether it be football, whether it be music as I've got older, many talented people who didn't have the work ethic that ended up not having the career that people who had less talent but worked hard did. So I just tell myself, work hard at what you've got, really.
What was it like growing up for you then in Hackney in the 70s and 80s? Describe that to us and how it was for you.
I mean, it was amazing. I look back and I say it was amazing times for us. I had a good childhood. I really enjoyed school. I got on well at school academically. I was quite athletic and sporty. And, at school, being good at sport is the best currency ever. We lived in a real close-knit community, lots of flats in a very small area. Yeah, it was a really multicultural area that I lived in. We had an Irish family on one side of us, an English family to the next side, a Nigerian family above us. Our local shop was run by Asians, but we lived in an area where there's lots of Turkish and lots of Greek people. And when I look back at my friendship groups, I have very, very good friends from that age, actually, from all different walks of life. So I feel really blessed and enriched by that. So it was just largely my mum and my younger brothers. She had 4 boys. My mum came to England when she was 12 from St Kitts, and she had me like 4 years later. So my mum had me really young at 16.
Wow. And
she had my other 2 brothers. She had 3 of us by the time she was 20. I know back there, no dads,
wow.
just us. So when I say it was a struggle, I'm not getting the violins out, but we didn't have things easy. But the benefit of that is that I got used to living with little and not needing a lot to be happy. We made toys, we had each other as company, we could play with our friends and play music and dance and sing and all of those things that really filled our days up. We didn't need to have the fanciest bike. We made go-karts. I know I sound like something from Oliver Twist, but
no,
it kind of was a little bit like that. I think it's difficult for a woman to show a boy how to be a man. But I believe that my mum was effectively, she played a dual role of my mum and my dad. So she taught us about responsibility, which, again, I don't think is exclusively for men, I think just as adults, but she taught us from a young age the importance of accepting responsibility and understanding consequence. These are things that have absolutely stood me in a good stead as I've got older. But the role of parenting generally, I could not have asked for anything more from my mum. We weren't born with much. We didn't have much at all growing up. And I realised quite young that if I was going to have a sort of comfortable life, and don't get me wrong, I never ever dreamed of having a big house or a fancy German or Italian sports car. I just wanted to know that if I wanted to have something to eat, I wouldn't have to worry where the money was coming from. And quite young, I realised that it was only going to come from one of two ways. I was either going to have to steal or live on the illegal side of the line or work for it. And I really didn't see myself as someone going to prison, so work it was. And then I just got into a good habit of working hard. Like, my mum was really strict, but fair. So we had quite clearly defined parameters and roles that you come in from school, you do your homework, you do your chores, and then the rest of your evening was your own. If I wasn't out playing football, I was in my room, like, practicing, like, hours and hours and hours and hours. And just for fun, because, I had no idea that it would go on to be my career.
Just on the back of that, where do you think that came from? Do you think it came from something within that you were just born with, or do you think it was something that you were taught, that work ethic?
I mean, that is... I cannot tell you how profound that question is, because I think it's something that I ask myself, if not daily, like once a week. And I try and work out what gets people at it. Is it something that is just innate and we're born with it, or is it something that we're taught? I largely don't think it's something that you can be taught, but you can be influenced by. I'm sure we'll speak about my mum at various points today, but she had a drive and a fire and a determination, which I've definitely taken from her, even though she never taught it to me. But what I realise is that having those qualities mean that you can always stay in the game, or you're never out the game until the whistle blows. That 15-year-old me would be most probably delighted that the time wasn't wasted, that he was trying to get me to be around the flats playing knockdown ginger or something else, and I'd be like, no, I'm going to stay in because I want to practice this scratch pattern or try and get these records to blend, even though they're very different BPMs, or just put a whole set together. Or even if it wasn't technically something of that ilk, that I would just be listening to and studying the music for its phrasing and its songwriting and its production. So I'm hoping that the young me would be delighted that I kept going and did get a bit of lucky, because no matter how hard you work, you always need a little bit of luck. That's not lost on me.
I know sport is a huge passion of yours. Tell us a little bit more about that and the role that's played and continues to play in your life.
There's so much about sport that I love, over and beyond the whistle going and you're actually playing the game. Like the preparation, the physical preparation, the mental preparation. I played a lot of football, so there's a massive team element to it, that you owe it to your teammates to be in the best position you can for them. I think it makes you a little less selfish, a little bit more considerate. Even though you have to take care of your little bit, you still have to look at the bigger picture, which meant as a striker, if you had to run back and track back and clear something off the line because your defender was out of position, you do that for the team. And I think in life, we have to do that sometimes, so yeah.
Where does music come into this then? What are your earliest memories, and where do you think that passion and love and influences came from?
I always say that our house growing up, we always guaranteed to have two things: good food and good music. So mum always was playing music. She came from the Caribbean, so calypso and soca was very much her thing. But then I started developing my own taste in music, which started out with stuff like Madness and Police and Blondie. Early doors, I can remember that, and the Specials were some of my favourites. And I just had a real eclectic taste. And one day I went to our youth club just over the road from where we lived, and a friend of mine, Steve, was doing this thing on the turntables, and I remember him playing one record, then he played the next record, but there was no gap in between, and I knew both records, and I was like, this is some Paul Daniels magic. So I watched him again, and he was twiddling something in between. I was like, wow, I need to learn that magic trick. And that magic trick was mixing. At the time, we used to listen to a lot of sound system tapes, and the DJs used to play on one turntable, so when that record was finished, you'd hear the gap. This was something completely new, and I was like, right, I want to learn how to do that. I had no idea it would end up being so important to me, but forever and ever, I need to thank Steve Howard. quite ironically, when I think I was about 16, my friends encouraged me to enter the DJ competition. I spent ages like practicing my set, and on the night of the competition, got into the final, and my record jumped. I ended up coming second, but that put such a fire in my belly that if I had won that, I might have just been, oh, that's it now. I've done this. Represents conscious brilliance to me. He was a phenomenon, no doubt about it. Arguably, the greatest musician that's ever lived. His brilliance is because of his levels of endeavour and consistency, and that anybody can have that. You don't have to be a multi-award winning artist to work hard, to have focus, to have direction. And I have definitely taken that from his brilliance. And when I got his Sign of the Times album, I was about 17, still living at home, and I absolutely rinsed that as a double album. It was always on the turntables. I had 3 milk crates and 2 concrete slabs to stop the vibration in my bedroom, and would turn the lights off and just sit in my room after I'd done my homework with the strobe light going around on my Technics turntable. I could still picture it now. I think he was aware he was a great musician, but he was very humble with it.
Talk to me a little bit about pirate radio and what that was like for you.
It was so much fun. Again, a special time, because UK Garage, which really started my wave, so to speak, this was the real early part of that journey. And London Underground was the station that I was on. And most of the DJs actually have gone on to have really good careers and good producers and made some big records that came off that station. But knowing that we were doing something that was technically illegal, broadcasting on without license, but we loved it. We were just trying to make people happy and add some value to our communities and our people, which largely were often deprived. And music and sport tended to be the way out for many people like me. Luckily, I never ever got arrested or had a studio raid or had my records confiscated by the DTI. It was really organic, the way that we got together. We were all on the same pirate radio station, London Underground, together. I used to listen to the station whenever I could pick it up, and I was always taken back by how well Timmy mixed, like technically how good he was. And I always loved Mikey B's tune selection, and he'd always play something that I hadn't heard, or he'd play the B-side to something that I already had. And I just professionally gravitated towards them. We realised that we all lived within a kind of mile of each other. And then we used to just start meeting up and playing music together and making tapes together. And, the Dream Team was born out of that. I mean, they are 2 of my heroes, because they've always been so supportive of me, being the youngest one, but always just like go full for multiply. So yeah, those are my big brothers. I love them too to bits. I mean, we went from being in a studio which was in a disused flat in a tower block to walking into somewhere where you needed a pass to get in, where the turntables had proper needles on, and you can hit a button and instantly the ad would play. It wasn't on an analog audio cassette. And then we joined Radio 1 in the year 2000, which was, again, just remarkable for, not just for us, obviously, but for our sound. There's a responsibility to make things grow. And I feel that our role in the team was to take UK Garage as far as we could, which meant that we were moving and raising the ceiling for other people to then come through. Music has the power to change people's lives. It gives people hope. It gives people direction. It gives people a crux, a friend, something they can trust on, something they can call on in their hour or moment of need. And it's very hard to get that from anywhere else at any time, in a way that music can give that to you, in a way that music has given that to me. I think, I look at my life then, and literally it was, if you could get off of the estate, that would be success. To do it through music in this way, that's actually making me emotional even thinking about it, because, wow, man.
What do you think your working class roots gave you?
It's given me everything, and I look back and I wouldn't have actually wanted it any other way now. And, I have 2 biological children, 2 stepchildren, and all I'm trying to teach them all the time is, resilience and getting up and dusting yourself down. And can you make sacrifices? Because these things are what will stand you in good stead and make you a successful adult. Again, whatever your measure of success is, if you're able to dust yourself off and go again, and I definitely learned that, whether I wanted to or not, from my background. I think that the best boardrooms are the boardrooms that are diverse. The best workplaces are the ones that are diverse. I love to look out on a dance floor and just see different people from different walks of life. There's a couple of things about Tiger Woods that he challenged the status quo. Golf was a game that was not really for people of colour. It really was for people of money or a certain stature, which definitely didn't include black people. But I think globally what Tiger Woods did for golf, he's the reason I picked up a golf club, because I saw somebody that looked a lot more like me than most of the people that I was seeing at the time. Now, I know Tiger Woods wasn't the first black professional golfer, but to see a non-white golfer lift a major tournament and play with a little bit of swag and walk down the fairways looking like how I or my friends might walk down the fairway, I was definitely attracted to that. And that is the importance of representation. Simone Biles in gymnastics, Tiger Woods in golf, Lewis Hamilton in F1. These guys are, and girls are, pioneer trailblazers of the highest order.
You were awarded a British Empire Medal. What did that recognition feel like?
Yeah, it was. It very much came out of the blue, and that was for sort of my contributions to music during COVID for all of the streams. I had a setup in my house, and I was on and just playing to people. But because of the position that everybody was in at that time, at home, couldn't go out, really engaged, it meant I was touching people in a way that I hadn't before. And again, I realised the power of music and the power of personal curation. That's what people were really buying into. I mean, talking of that, so I spent, what would have been, 97, so 23 years effectively before COVID hit, DJing all over the world in all over clubs, and you'd bump into people and they'd say, I love that set, and you came to my university, and making you feel old and all stuff like that. But the period between 2020 and 2022, when we kind of fully came out of lockdown and started integrating and going out and seeing people, I've never had so much feedback and compliments for DJing. Yeah, really humbling and really privileged to have such a profound effect on people. If I'm honest, I was a little bit conflicted about receiving the award, because the empire hasn't really been good for black people or my people down the years, and I really had to think long and hard about it, that people who deserve recognition from their country shouldn't be conflicted about getting an award because of things that have happened historically. We shouldn't have to make that decision or choice. And I didn't take the decision lightly to collect it for those reasons, but I thought for the actual work that I'd done, it was as much for the people that had been a part of the streams, because some of the words and the stories that people attach to, experiences that, especially during lockdown, it was a tough time for a lot of people. I remember one time seeing a family mum, dad and 2 grandchildren with their hands talking to what was clearly their grandmother through a window. And I'm getting emotional as I'm saying that now. It just made me, I was walking down the road crying, thinking how sad is that that person has lived their whole life and now this is how they have to talk to their family. Family is and should be our safe place. I have friends that are the family that I've chosen. I have friends that I classify as blood family because through thick and thin, we will always be there for each other, to give each other counsel, to laugh, to cry, to joke, to smile, to tell off. And we do that knowing that it's always coming from a place of love. And when you can feel safe that you're having that conversation with someone in that way, that is when it's real and true family. My uncle, Martin Charles, is another hero of mine. I still very much feel like his nephew. I'm still very proud of him. He was very loving to me in the way that he always has been. And in fact, I just want to give a special and honourable mention to my Uncle Jerry and my other Uncle Ezard, who are Uncle Martin's 2 older brothers, because I think from as long as I could remember meeting them and knowing that Uncle Jerry was working, and then when Uncle Ezard got his job, they've always been role models to me, always led from the front, always been very, very hardworking. I suppose this hero title is for all 3 of them to share.
You had a major health scare before Christmas. How did that impact you and how are you doing?
It's the weirdest it's the weirdest thing to explain, because the injury happened and I continued to just sort of live and get on with my life with a bad headache, some days worse than others, and just carried on. I was still working, still training, still commuting. And then on the weekend I said, right, it's a little bit, I'm going to go to the hospital and just get some stronger painkillers, get them to check it. I don't know what they were going to check. And a few hours later, they're like, look, you're going to have to go over to Annan Brooks. We're waiting for an ambulance. When they said to me that waiting for an ambulance, I said, what do I need an ambulance for? I'll just go home and get my car. And they were like, no, you can't be driving. But they're not going to send the ambulance, he said, until we heard from admissions, until we've got a bed. What do I need a bed for? I said, oh, you've got to have an operation on your brain. And it didn't really click into how serious it was. Obviously took it easy at first. I had 25 staples in my head, and then the staples come out and you're still waiting for the wounds to heal up. But yeah, thankfully I'm okay, right as rain, the other side of it now. It's not made me change the way that I think about life, but it definitely has reinforced the importance of good health, taking care of ourselves. I will make sure that I get that message over to as many people as I possibly can about looking after and taking care of yourself and just giving yourself the best chance you can to live a long and healthy life.
Did you have chance to, the people you've mentioned, your uncles, your mum, siblings, have you had chance to tell them, or did you get chance in some cases to tell them what they did and thank them, or did you not get the opportunity?
Not enough. I can still, I definitely didn't tell. I told my mum, but I could tell my mum every day. It is emotional because it's such a massive thing. I don't know how different my life would have been without their input, and they never asked for anything ever. They did it just because it was the right thing to do, and it's so humbling that I can't even speak. And no one's ever said that I've struggled to speak before, but it really is that deep. And quite ironically, when I had to think about my heroes, and I've never ever said this to Winston, but he called me on Sunday to tease me after Newcastle had beaten Liverpool. And I said to him, you know, you didn't even call me after I had a brain operation, but here you are calling me to tease me after football. But it was just a beautiful thing, and it really took me back to being that little boy and having so much respect for him. My cousins Winston and Kelvin, who were absolute heroes growing up, for how they stepped in. And you know, Kelvin's quite a well-known actor, and my cousin Winston, who nobody knows, but in my heart he's an absolute hero, because he used to travel from his house to come to my house just to take me to Cub Scouts so I could play football twice a week and then go home. And as a man, I now look back and think how different my life would have been without that, and the sacrifices that he made. He would have finished work and gone, no, I've got to go and get Jonathan to take into football, because I had 3 younger brothers and my mum couldn't have taken me, and if he wasn't going to do it, I wasn't going to go. I was the oldest son, so I didn't have an older sibling to show me the way, and that responsibility it fell at the feet of my cousins, Winston, Kelvin, and my uncles. Winston and Kelvin, for different reasons, they're my heroes. Winston spent a lot of time with me as a youngster. He also loved football. And Kelvin, his younger brother, who in a very different way taught me so much about life, how to be a young man. He taught me about the finer things, the arts, taught me about how to dress and how to behave and how to speak and how to express myself. His speech and his articulation is as good as anyone that I've ever met. So I would never felt hamstrung by the fact that being brought up in Hackney that I had to be or behave a certain way. And Kelvin taught me that. And again, I'll be eternally grateful, because I never ever felt that I didn't belong in whatever environment. He just gave me that sort of confidence that you are good enough and you can do it, and you know you will do it. And as a pair of brothers in 2 different ways, what they've done for a young me has had an absolute lasting impact on my life. When and where I grew up, we all had that hunger and that drive and that determination, where, you know, the kids are effectively now, you know, they're not middle class, but they're not living in poverty by any stretch of the imagination.
How have you been able then to instill those values in your children and stepchildren?
I mean, the honest answer to that is I don't know if I have, and only time will tell. Let's see. I can only hope that they take on board some of these things, because that will, especially even more so now, I think that would be their USP. It's so important for young people to have people like that in their lives, and sometimes it comes from strangers. Sometimes it's not even a family member, and I think I still try to mentor when I can. Some people I mentor more than others, but I guess indirectly, if they can see me doing positive things, then that will help them to do positive things and make the right choices, I hope.
Everybody's why changes a great deal over the years, from being that young lad who was maybe wanting to get off the estate and have a different life and have a comfortable life. What would you say your why is now at this stage in your life?
I mean, what my why now would be, I think I have a responsibility. I think looking back historically at black people and black men, that we always need role models. We always need people to be flag bearers. I'm not sure when exactly I became aware of Martin Luther King, but I would have been young. But I immediately realised the importance of him and what he has done for his people and what he was trying to do for his people, basically so that we could operate on a level playing field. He wasn't saying that we should have preferential treatment. He wasn't even saying, you know, we're going to forgive you or hold you accountable for all what's gone in the past. He's just saying, right here, right now, let's start again, let's reset, let's be fair, and let's give black people a fair crack of the whip. You know, ultimately, he lost his life for his beliefs and for his work, but I want to be, in a very small part, a reason why we continue to challenge that status quo and just try and get equality for everybody, irrespective of race, class, gender. I think I now look and go, I need to take the baton and help other young people. And even though I did say black people, as I've got older, I realise it's not, the division really isn't black and white, it's more rich and poor. And I need to be an inspiration for all the have-nots, for all of the poor people, whether they be black, white, or anything in between, because we don't get a fair crack of the whip. But like I said, if you work hard at that talent, you can get out. I've never lost sight of the fact that my thing was never about being famous. When I first went to a youth club, when I started DJing to help out, and I left there, and I remember thinking to myself, if out of the 25 people that were there, if I can help affect positively only one of those young person's lives, then that trip was absolutely worth it. In an ideal world, it wouldn't be necessary that I stood up to speak about equality for black people in the same way that we'd have someone stand up for gay rights or for equality for women in the world or in the workplace. But it's just necessary that the world isn't as fair a place as it should be. And I know what it's like to be treated unfairly, so I will stand up for a gay man or a gay woman or a woman generally, because unfair is just unfair. And I just want us to live in a fairer world and a fairer society. Mum, you're my ultimate hero, and I've written a few words by way of a letter to you. I am going to do my best not to cry, because I know that'll only set you off. So, this is a letter to you, Mum. I looked up the literal meaning of the word hero, and it said a person who's admired for their courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. Mum, when I was a boy, I started admiring you because of your incredible courage. I saw you as an absolute warrior, ready to take on any challenge presented to you, all whilst guiding, nurturing, and protecting my brothers and I. You are a remarkable woman, Mum, and as I got older, I realised exactly how amazing you are. I speak of you in the present tense because even though you're not here physically, not a day goes by where you don't influence something I do, say, or consider. Your never say die attitude is something you've left me with. I might do it a little different to you, but my spirit is your spirit. I watched you effectively turn water into wine, and now I always find myself trying to make as much as I can out of every situation I'm faced with. Without those learnings from you, I really don't know who I'd be. You lived for my brothers and I, made sacrifices that most people wouldn't make, and never complained. You never moaned. If you did, I didn't hear you. Again, always protecting us. The world has changed a little since you left us, Mum, but your mantras, lessons and love will live on in me until my last breath. Everything I've achieved to date or will go on to achieve will be because of you. You didn't give me lots of things that I wanted, but you gave me everything that I needed. Whether I knew it or not, everything that has helped me on this journey that is life. Just one more hug, one more dance, to hear that unmistakable laugh one last time. Before I go, Mum, and I know this will make you smile, I've not had a fried dumpling like yours since the last time you made me some. I love you, darling, and thank you for everything.